Hey everybody, we're about to get started tonight. Just want to remind you guys that tonight will be in English, so if you want to have your kids over to help, that would be very convenient. And yeah, I hope you're all excited. And if you have any questions, make sure to leave it in the chat box or hold them off until the questions and answers section begins. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan, and welcome to 7ED Open Class. I'm June, and I'm so excited to share this topic. And actually, this topic has been being asked for so many days since the COVID-19 starts, and to now, like every single day, we got a bunch of emails and phone calls and asking about what is the changes for the college administration policy and how we can understand that part. And they also asked me like how we're gonna do if we can't register for SAT, ACT. And we have been hosting a series of open class and telling everything about the changes and policies. But actually, we never had a chance to sit down together to share more information about the college administration part, right? Okay, so today I'm going to invite, actually, yeah, it's here. Okay, so welcome, Francis. So today I invited Francis with me together. We're going to analyze, the 2020, the college administration, what's changed. Okay, all right, so welcome, Francis. All
Thank
right,
you.
one of the biggest reason that we didn't have chance to go through all of them is because we are busy helping the students who apply for the 2019 application. So they have to make the final decision and get rid of all those kind of like preparation, and also being ready and get them ready, prepare them ready to for their college new year. Okay, this is something we have been busy for. The other part is because the changes is all the time, and also SAT has been suspended for so many months, and finally yesterday, so everybody's so busy registered for the test, and finally it starts. I opened the registration. Hopefully you got it, and this time it's kind of like, buying some hot item, in the market. You kind of like you have to refresh your page all the time, and someone who got it feel like win the lottery. This is something so special. And we have been seeing the students always can register SAT for 2 3 more like test days, but now it's like if you get one, that means you are lucky. Okay. All right, so now we are going to talk about this year's change, and hopefully you guys can give also some like question and regarding our personal situation, because this year is so different. So 2020 definitely is not a normal year, and we believe this year going to be dramatic. Okay, hopefully in the good way. All right, so let's start it. Most of people ask us, is this hard? Is it become harder? Well, we also hear some rumors saying it's going to be easier, because we know that SAT, ACT, most of school, I would say a lot of school, right? They cancel. They say we're not, asking for SAT, ACT anymore. You don't need to submit anymore. And some schools even say, hey, from now on, we're gonna, we are not going to request SAT, ACT for the entire life. I mean, forever. Okay. So this kind of news like makes so many students like so excited, like, oh my god, everybody can go to Harvard, everybody can go to Yale, right? Well, what do you think, Francis?
Well, I mean, I was as pleasantly surprised as my students. Like when I heard the news SAT got canceled or size right now, I mean, I'm just as pleasant as them. But then on the other hand, I really want to, precaution my students about, such like a de-emphasis on standardized tests. So think about it, right? There is just that many, quantitative measures in college admissions, meaning like, when colleges assess or evaluate students, they can only look at, a few things. And then numbers is like one of them. So with SAT or ACT being like one of the most important measures in the processes, I think SAT is still like a good way of telling students, potential of doing well, performing well in college, for a student's aptitude, meaning IQ. But then like after the redesign of SAT, I think it's definitely, looking at more of students, academic preparation, like how much time they spend on, preparation. So it's basically looking at how the student was like, right after when they were born. And then also they were trying to look at like the efforts, the time that the students commit to the preparation processes. It's everything to me. I just think SAT is such a factor that nobody should be, really overlook in the process still.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I believe you. I agree with you. So actually, a lot of students they feel so excited, and then they tell me like, "Well, we're still having class. Can we just cancel all of them? So I just, no need to prepare for SAT anymore." I always say, "Sure, that's one option." But on the other hand, we need to understand, the college administration they lower the bar, but doesn't mean the competition is getting lower, right? So the competition is not getting lower, and not because they just don't ask you for SAT, ACT. And the truth is, actually, a lot of students, I would say 90% of our students, they got their SAT, ACT down before last year. I would say some of them maybe ninth grade, some of it 10th grade, and many of them before the second semester of the 11th grade. So which means a lot of students will have their SAT down already, okay? Because they have to submit for their summer application for summer camp, right? So for the students who already have it, can they still submit it? Of course they can. So they say, we're not asking you to submit your score if you don't have any, but if you have it, welcome to submit it. So how can we understand? So let's put it in this way. Have any colleges asked students to submit any competition or award or any like a kind of like high GPA? If you look at the policy of every college, right? So basically, the GPA there's no minimum requirement. Well, UC has, but they canceled, right? So basically, a lot of things is not required. The leadership is not required, and accomplishment is not required, and activities are not required. You are not required to do sports for sure, and you're not required to be a musician, or you're not required to have music talent. But why there's so many students, they still try so hard to do sports, to train their personal skill, and to join a competition, to win award, and to take so many AP. Why? Because their answer is simple, because they want to win during the competition. And what competition it is? It's the college administration competition. So in this way, so I would say it has been hard, and it won't get harder, but it's always hard if you want to get into the top colleges. Okay, but if you want to get into like okay college, or some colleges like not like that crazy, like the accepted rate there, right? So you have more chance this year, because I would say because COVID-19, the college is more tolerant, and we can talk about like more details later. Okay. And you're all also welcome to join us to give like more question regarding your concern, and we can answer question today. All right. So something we want to talk about before we going to tell you more details about the changes. And actually, I want to, remind everybody, do not label yourself. Okay. So this is something often I heard. Okay. As an Asian boy, I have less chance to get into the top schools. Well, no, because we just help one typical Asian boy get in Harvard. Okay. And the other one is like, oh, does it mean like the girl has more chance? Well, yes, if the same background, same profile, and the girl has better chance. Why? Okay, we can talk about later. Okay, so the other part is like, oh, I'm not genius. Okay, I'm not like very good students. Like I'm not Niuwa. Okay, so they call this like talent kids. All right, so am I have chance going to the top colleges? So those are things like I often heard from my students or the parents. So the first thing I want to say, do not label yourself. Okay. So one of the biggest reasons we want to go back a little bit to introduce a little bit more is because the students who got in Berkeley this year had a lower GPA, and also the SAT is only 1,400. And the other one who got in Cornell is an Asian boy, and SAT is not even 1,400 yet. There's another student who got in UC Irvine. That's average students. That's okay. The typical, I would say, yeah, the Harvard and the Columbia, Princeton, they're all Asian boys this year. So I would say this is not something ain't gonna happen for sure. And I understand like a lot of people saying maybe you haven't heard about that, right? So they talk about races, they talk about justice, they talk about unfair, but do not label yourself because you don't know what you're gonna looks like in your college application profile. So if you label yourself, which means you won't have confidence, and which means you already certain yourself into some pattern, right? Which is not what we want to see. So the first thing usually we want to talk with the students is try to open your mind, try to build up your confidence, and do not label yourself, okay? All right, so now we want to talk a little bit more about, after SAT is being dropped and what is the changes. So Francis, could you please introduce a little bit more for the school-wise?
Mm-hmm. For sure. Because or not because of COVID-19, there's a record high number of colleges which has dropped, SAT and ACT as a standardized test requirement, as everybody is seeing right now. So, University of Chicago, as an example, George Washington University, Wake Forest University, Bowdoin, and then also top liberal arts colleges like Bowdoin College, Smith College, and Pitzer College. I guess a lot of people, would just assume like this is an action taken by college to really be lenient during this special time, this critical time. I mean, think about it, right? If you cannot get out of your house to take SAT like in person, how can you apply to college, right? So I would say this is more of a action from college to reduce the impact of COVID-19 on, their the fully talented and then the fully talented students or students who have great potential. They more want to see, which students can still overcome the challenges and then still be successful. So this is what they want to look at in this year's college admissions process. And then this is not even a full list. The list can really go on and on and on. Even though our seminar topic is what's changed in college admissions this year, actually we can even challenge ourselves and ask what's not changed in college admissions this year. And then we'll touch upon more about like whether this is a measure for now, or whether this is something that can inspire more of a ongoing and evolving conversation in higher education.
Yes. Okay. So one of the things you mentioned, you say, what you can conquer during this hard time. So actually, we have helping students, think about this topic. And actually, this year, the college administration even give the topic to write about the stories during this COVID-19. We have students being like very depressed because of the quarantine at home. And we also have students accomplish a lot, like 5 APs self-studied. And we have students, keep doing the online research with the professors. And we also have students like, staying home, and then trying to figure out what to do. And the parents try to figure out how can they let the kids, stay away from the computer, play video games all the time. So they are all the different kind of struggles. But I like what you say. You say what they can conquer during this time. I think the hardship is really important because if you look at the college admission like essay and a Common App, right? The question every single time, every year, we struggle so much to help students to figure out what is the drawback, what is the hard time, what is the difficulty you have been through. And most of our students, they just say like, hey, I just don't have any kind of, difficult time. Now, here we go. Everybody went through the same thing, right? I think it's a great opportunity for you to rethink about the life goal and the value, everything like that. So I think this is a good way. And good to know that SAT being dropped. And if you don't have chance to take it, that's okay. But if you still have chance, go ahead to take it. Like what we mentioned in the beginning. So the college lowered the bar. It's like everybody can apply just to pay your registration fee, okay, so we can get more, right? But they didn't say we're gonna change our like rule, or we're gonna change our like expectation, or the competition is getting lower. All right, so this is the Harvard news. Okay. Yeah, Francis, could you please explain a little bit more? And actually, this screen cut is from one of the parents and ask us like how we think about that. So we want to talk together.
Exactly. So not only Harvard, but then actually a few other elite schools, they are no longer requiring the students, the applicants, to submit SAT or ACT, the writing scores anymore. And then, as always, we know, right, the SAT and ACT, the essay section, the score is separate from the total score, the composite score. And then when you look at, college admissions data, the essay score is always not part of the admissions data, meaning like, when colleges do look at students' essay score, they really don't have a minimum requirement for the essay score, no matter they require it or not. So I would say, even though the essay section is not being required, we would still actually anticipate a lot of top aggressive and competitive applicants to still submit their essay score. Because think about it, right? Essay section is a section that can reflect one student's, reading ability, right? However well like you can write is on how many books you have read before. And then it's also dependent on the students, writing skills for sure. Then if students are no longer like submitting it, how do colleges tell, right? They definitely still want their students to have advanced writing ability in college and beyond, because students are required to write, thesis in college, for a graduation purpose. They also need to write a lot of, papers for general education purpose. Everybody needs to take, English class, in first and second year in college, right? So how do they do that? If you don't, submit your SAT or ACT writing score, they will, rate your college essay even harder, and then they'll have a even heavier weight on the college essays. Think about that, right? You only have that much limited space and room to show your essay skill, to show your writing ability in the college essays. How are you going to do that when everybody is running out of ideas, when everybody has a lot of stories, no matter mediocre stories or fantastic stories to share? Like everybody only has about not even 2,000 words to share with the colleges in the application essay part. So I would say, this is a policy that gives a lot of, freedom to students who do not afford taking the SAT or ACT writing section. But then on the other hand, in turn, it puts even more burden on students who do not submit it, because they have to showcase themselves as even strong writers in the college essay section. So that makes the college application, make their college application even harder, believe it or not.
Yeah, I agree. So if you go to different kind of the top colleges, they sometimes they actually, before the COVID-19, they hold an administration conference every year, and they talk about their policy. They answer questions from parents and students. And one of the parents, actually, their goal is just to for top UCs, and after they attended the Harvard administration office like conference there, and then they come back to me say like, hey, can we apply Harvard this year with a GPA lower than 3.5? And then I asked like, what make you think like that all of a sudden? And then they told me, oh, because they went there and then they told them everybody can apply, and there's no minimum GPA requirement, and there's no like a standardized like score requirement. They just kind of like well, I would say how you want them to answer your question. They can now say like, hey, we only ask for this, that. Okay, you never get the answer from them, right? So, so this is something we have to read between the lines. That's why thank you, Francis, for analysis of this kind of like policy. Okay, so now let's look at another school, which is UC, and we're in California, and actually UC will be most of the students who like to apply. And we also have students give up some like top school this year because they feel like the UC is the best because it's cheaper and higher scholarship and closer to home and best option, right? Okay, so we're gonna analyze a little bit more for the UC. So yeah, so let me start at this time. Okay, so in 2021, 22, 23, and you can see it has to become optional. Optional means like you can submit it or you don't have it, you don't need to submit it. All right, and then starting from 2023, Francis.
Yes, it's gonna become, test blind, meaning like, UCs won't be looking at California residents, SAT or ACT scores, or not. Like UCs won't look at it, so it's called test blend.
Okay, and then the I would say the funny part starts. Okay, in 2025, bingo, a new standardized test come out. What are you doing, UC? Come on, you say you don't want to test anymore, and you even give the test a blind policy, and then eventually the goal is try to have your own test, right? But if you look at a history, and every college they have their own test for so many years until the college board and the ACT part, they give some like standardized test to make things easier. Otherwise, if you want to apply for 10 school, you have to prepare for 10 different tests, right? Now, okay, UC say, no, I'm going to get this right back because I can have people to register for my own test and they pay me, not pay college board anymore, right? And well, so maybe that's the goal. I'm not sure. Okay, we're just trying to, analyze a little bit, but it's definitely not most student, trying to like, what do you think, right? You think like, oh, no more. Everybody can go UC, right? You don't have to score. You don't need to give a tax. You just can go. So UC has limited spots. If they open, that become Central Park. That become Times Square, right? So you cannot just everybody go. They still have some standard. So please do not let yourself be fooled, and please do not give the more excuse to yourself to be like more laid back, right? It's like, oh, my mom tried to ask me to prepare for SAT, ACT. You see, 2025, and then you count the year. I'm not going to take the test anymore. Well, that's not the case. All right. So basically, the college still looking for students who are great in academic part and also have good performance overall. And well, like we mentioned, many in many like seminars, we say the score is not the only thing. It can't like represent who you are, right? But if you are so good and you are so well-rounded and you just do so many things, but you're so weak in the certain part, that's not, that doesn't work either. You know what I say? So getting overall like good score that shows like your GPA is trustworthy, right? It's not like you have high GPA, then you just have very low score in the standardized test. So this is something we want to remind you. Okay. All right. So let's move forward.
Exactly. So I have something to add, like for
Huh?
that section, actually. A more honest truth, like for any public school system, is that I don't think really have the enough, personnel or, resources to really evaluate students only based on, qualitative feedback. I think the SAT or ACT is actually a standard measure to really give colleges really help them to streamline the process and then reduce the resources spent in this process as well. So if you look at all the public school system, not only University of California, but then if you also look at schools like University of Michigan and Ann Arbor, it's the same thing, right? They care more about GPA or student test scores. So really logistically speaking, that's also their way of reducing the resources expenses in the processes. So that we need to understand. And then honestly speaking, personally, I really appreciate that University of California is spearheading this, dropping SAT and ACT as their posture to really show that they care about educational equity, which is another topic. But then I think they have set a good example. But then they still need to process students. They still need to assess students in a quantitative way. So it's going to be SAT, ACT, one way or another, just as we just mentioned.
Yes. So let me summarize in a different way. So let's say if you are very strong in your activities and sports, and you have different talents, and you just don't have time for SAT because of this year, the COVID-19 or the different situation like that, that won't affect your application. Okay. So on the other hand, if you don't or if you're not really, if you don't have so many, like strong points, or you can't really have time to develop your talents, win like a award and get a big accomplishment. So you probably want to, save your credit little by little. So getting SAT, SAT done is one of them. Yeah. All right. So let's answer some of the common beliefs that we have been asked these days. So one of the question asks, why do college job SAT as a requirement? What's the purpose? Francis, what's the purpose?
I think one of the purpose actually I've just mentioned is to really show that they do care about educational equity, which is a very constant topic in the field. I mean, SAT or ACT, such standardized tests have always been criticized as preventing social mobility, which is why like College Board has been making efforts to make sure that social mobility is still there. Like last year, they have carried out this adversity score, which is to reduce the impact of socioeconomic differences, like how those differences take a toll like on the students. Research findings have shown like African Americans or Hispanic or Latino students have been doing way worse than Asian students or white students. So that's that's been a constant topic on the table for higher education. I think that's one of their purpose for sure. And then second, in terms of SAT and ACT, because they've been on the market for such a long time, I think there are so many testing centers, training schools which have been studying these tests like really thoroughly. So which is why like a lot of times for students who can get these resources or get these enrichment to do and perform better, which come back to the topic, right? If you're rich or wealthy enough, you can get a good score. I think colleges are trying to break the connection, the correlation between the standardized test and then the eventual college admission result.
Yeah,
Or
I remember one of my students used to ask me, I remember that's the first day when we have class. He said, well, I feel really uncomfortable for having class with you. And I say, why? He's like, because I feel like I'm cheating. I was like, how come? He's like, because my friends, I believe they don't have any kind of training and I'm having the training. I'm definitely going to have a better score than, I feel like I'm kind of like cheating. And I was like, okay, relax. So if you want to get like a pure organic score and to submit your application, probably that doesn't work either, because you cannot guarantee most of them. They just submit organic score. I think this is one of the purpose like the college trying to do. They really trying to select the students, like to naturally showing they are very strong in academic, they're very good, right? And that's the same thing. They want to see students naturally show leadership, right? But you see like so many different kind of activities that help students to develop their leadership or show their leadership, and this is the situation that we have to face now. And on the other hand, the college, they never ask people to say, hey, you need to have a big heart, you need to care about the world, but they are looking for people who want to change the world, who want have a big heart, who want to really do something for the world. But you can tell like there's so many different kind of I would say nonprofit or different kind of activities, and then they start to help students to go to different places to offer help, and you cannot say like they are cheating. The best way to think is like this is the good opportunity because the college direct the students to pursue their future. So for example, if the college only asks for let's say good people, right, nice people, good people, the people who never be mad with parents, no record argue with parents, I think your kids' behavior going to be way better immediately because that's what they're looking for, and then that's how they, want to meet the requirement. You know what I say? So I kind of like agree with this kind of like uh, changes, but again, like Francis mentioned, so you understand the purpose from the general, like a bigger scale, but you also need to combine to your own situation, right? All right, the second question, Francis. Students don't need to take SAT, ACT anymore.
According to our conversation earlier, obviously our recommendation is that students do still need to take ACT and SAT for sure, just to stand out. After the minimum requirement is out, that doesn't mean like you're not applying to colleges. That doesn't mean like you don't want to get into a good school, right? If you still want to get into a good school, SAT and ACT is still highly recommended.
Yeah, and also I'm gonna ask a different question. I would say, well, the college never ask you to do any like volunteer activities, leadership. Yeah, just don't do anything. Okay, so if you dare to do that, you dare not to take any kind of test. So that's kind of like same logic. All right, so one more. The next one we want to talk about it, and actually, I want Francis to analyze a little bit more about that. Is because currently Francis is helping our students to work on the college essay, and some of the students like working directly with you. I want you to share a little bit more about the essay prompt from your side. Then I'm going to share from my student side.
For sure. So this year, one of the most significant changes in Common App is that they have added a new optional essay for students to write, which is geared towards COVID-19. So as everybody have known, like they ask students to write about this. Let me just read out the prompt really quick. Community disruptions such as COVID-19 and natural disasters can have a deep and long-lasting impact. If you need it, this space is yours to describe those impacts. Colleges care about the effects on your health and well-being, safety, family circumstances, future plans, and education, including access to reliable technology and quiet study places. If you do wish to use this space to discuss this topic, please use this space to describe how these events have impacted you. So this is a COVID-19 specific essay prompt that Common App added this year. I've been guiding all of my students to respond to this prompt, actually. I think this is a great place for our students to share about the challenges they have encountered during this special time. All of us know, like, because of shelter in place and stay home orders, all the students are taking classes online, distance learning. But then how that's being, affecting every student, and each student is gonna be, presenting themselves differently in each specific situation, in each specific example. So what Common App or what colleges are trying to look for in this prompt is that they are trying to see what kind of challenges, whether family challenges or personal challenges that the students have experienced during this critical time. As all of us know, social economic background or context, or like how one student has overcome certain difficulty in their life, these are the very special things that have made the students stand out in the processes, because it's not like everybody is doing the same thing to achieve the same eventual result. Colleges want to look at, going back, how much, one has, put into efforts and commitments to achieve whatever he or she has today. So basically, colleges want to see the efforts that students have made in the process, or if the students have encountered any challenges, they want to understand what kind of challenge it is and how the student has overcome it. So basically, for this prompt, for this essay, I don't suggest, writing a very, very long essay just because of the word limit. The word limit is only 250. So you definitely want to keep it short, brief, and concise. But then on the other hand, if you do have any experience with, let's say, personal challenges, like if you feel online learning is really not your thing, and then it has, drastically, lowered your grades, like GPA, or if you have any loss in your family. We know like the job market right now isn't, in the best case scenario, and then the unemployment rate has hit a record high. So if it does apply to you, you definitely want to share the situation in here with college, so they understand you, they understand where you come from, and then how much you have, conquered, how many challenges you have conquered to achieve what you have today.
Yeah.
So basically, they're trying to understand that.
Yes, and because of the time, and maybe we can find another time to talk specific about the essay and topic and how to crack it. And actually, if you visit our website, and we have the blog, and which we already analyzed the UC essay prompt and all the UC essay prompts we analyzed last year, and this year there's not too much changes so far, and you can definitely look into it. And I think that can definitely help you if you want to do the DIY. And if you need our help, welcome to schedule a meeting and talk to Francis and talk to me. All right. So some of the things we want to share a little bit more, is like something you don't want to do or something you can do. So yeah, Crystal. So for me, I want to remind everybody, it's like if you get sick because of COVID-19, you can write about it. But if you didn't get sick, do not fake it. All right. This is one of the biggest issue that I have been facing with my students. So all of a sudden I got an essay from them, and then I saw they got sick. Their family got sick, and they got sick. And then when I look into it, actually they didn't get sick, but they think getting sick is one of the things can get empathy, sympathy, or get their like credits, which is not the situation. Yeah. So what about you here, Francis?
Yes,
About your
we have students, doing a lot of, side projects, in the same line. And then I think for this specific essay, we want to focus more on the challenging part. So for whatever like students have done, with regard to, charity or with regard to donation, you can still report it like very briefly, but then you don't want to spend, let's say, 100 words or so. So basically the key word in here is challenge.
Yeah. Okay. So now it's important because we're going to predict the 2020s, the trend. Okay. So yeah, we just take turns. Okay. Whatever you have in your mind, you just put in it, and then if you have any question related to this year's application, welcome to start typing your question in the chat box so we can answer. If you don't feel comfortable, type the question in the chat box, you can always test our teachers or WeChat group, and you private message me if you have my WeChat. All right. Okay. So the first thing I want to say, I think the deadline for administration may delay this year. For example, usually the early decision is like end of October, and the UC is end of November. The regular is end of December, but we think this year the deadline may delay. Okay, so it's prediction. It's not something for sure. So yeah, if you have any disagreement, welcome to bring it up. The other thing we predict is like, yeah, the school may allow students to submit the activity after the deadline. So what do you think, Francis? Because we do have students, they allow the student to submit a score later after they submit their application. So because of the activity, so nobody can do the activity right now. So we predict like the school may allow students to submit activity later after everything, zoom back, right? The other part is like we think this year the school may be more tolerant for the candidates this year, especially the global issue and all the kind of like relationships. So the international students may reduce, the number of students may reduce this year, but the school need school need more students. So the school has a certain amount of the spots, right? So they have to fulfill them, I would say. So this year they may be more tolerant. So this is great opportunity for most of the students for this application season, I would say. So it's unlucky you guys just has COVID-19, this kind of like unusual events in your life. But the good side is you guys have the opportunity that no students have ever had. Even the students apply next year, they won't have the chance for this year. So this year is so special. And I think you definitely have to grab this opportunity. The other part is like, the school may value your previous year's achievement more. So, for example, some students they don't have time for activity in the 11th grade. Maybe this is great chance for you. Anyway, nobody have activity right on site, and but it's not really good news for sports students. Yeah, for example, if you play golf, if you do like team sports, you don't really have chance to go back to normal. So this is something I would say just don't worry about that, because you just can't do it. It's not you don't want to do it, right? So you definitely have reason to explain. This is something we think it won't affect your application. Yeah, any input, Francis?
Yes. So one prediction that I want to add on is actually, I would say some of the colleges might increase the students they admit, like in the first place. Like every year, all the schools they are trying to hit a perfect, yield rate, like every year. But then this year, I think a few schools have been, doing a great job of, increasing their enrollment, like in the first place, so that just in case some of the students, reject their offers, like they can still ensure the final student enrollment. For example, this year, University of Southern California has increased their enrollment, the first time enrollment by 2,000 more students. Believe it or not, I haven't been able to look at the official numbers yet because they're not out yet.
But we know a lot of students got into that CU this year. Way
That's
more than
great.
last year. Yes. Yeah.
That's good news.
Mhm.
So my prediction is that if COVID-19 is still here to the end of this year or to next year, same thing is going to happen, right? Because schools are trying to secure the number of students they have on campus like every year. But then like this
Private
uncertainty, right? They should do that. Absolutely.
and especially private schools, I would say. But at the top schools, they don't need to worry about this. But we're still curious. So I'm still curious. I would say let's looking forward to see the data for the next year, which is like after the application finish. Let's see if the percentage, the accepted rate increase or not. And by then, we'll be able to tell, is there any like, problem or any increase. And I think we should just grab this opportunity because, well, when we talk about the data, usually it's about a history. And well, the history can guide a little bit more for the future, but they cannot guarantee the future. So that's why usually I would say, well, if you look at the accept rate is 5%, but you got it, that means you belong to the 5%, right? But if you look at the data, it's like, oh yeah, 25%, I get more chance. Then you didn't get it. That means you belong to the 75%. So the data is always about a history, and it can guide you a little bit more to see how the school is like competitive or not. But definitely, if you want to apply for some schools, you can do it. So we got some questions. One of question is like, when you talk about this year, are you referring 2021, 2021 students? Well, yes, we're talking about a 2021 to graduate, which means currently they are 11th grade. If you're currently 11th grade, that you're heading to your 12th grade, we're talking about this year. That's what we're talking about. All right, and I want to introduce a little bit more for Francis. Well, actually, I should introduce you before. Okay, so I think everybody knows your style, and you're alumni interviewer for the University of Pennsylvania. And thank you for interviewing some of the students for us. And 10 years of experiences in college counseling, and which is I think is really good as young age, right? Not really young age, but yeah, we're not telling. We try to be young, okay, forever. So this is one of the students' parents asked me. They say, "You guys look too young." I was like, "How old I should look to help?" So actually, Francis has a really great record. And one of the big advantages, I would say, being not that old is like we can connect the students easily, right? It's not like another mom coming here, right? Okay, so Francis helped the student get in MIT, Columbia, Duke, and Northwestern, UC, Berkeley, UCLA, and more. And that's just to finish the year's the result. And me, and as a founder of 7EDU, I'm helping students, and also I'm working on build up the team and guarantee the best services and good quality of classes for everyone. And I have to help students get into the Harvard, Stanford, UC Berkeley, Brown, and Cornell. And this year's, and we help them more. We work more as a team, and Dr. Yan, and this is my co-founder, and she helped the student majorly on the science side. If you apply for a STEM major and science major and the data science major, and you can just talk to Dr. Yan. We also have a teacher and a counselors who very strong in literature, history, and these three teachers are very strong in the essays. They are so good. Okay. Yeah, so Dr. Neiman, everybody knows he's very famous. Is one of the best teachers in 7U, and like teacher Amy, same thing. Very famous in 7U. Everybody love her class. And Professor Lu, maybe some of you never heard about her, and never heard about him, but he has experiences like more than 30 years. And actually, he helped our student to publish some papers and to join the writing competitions. And he's very good and very high standard for the essay. All right, and this is the last year's result, and looking forward to this year's result. And I also want to answer a question and ask from the parents. They asked me about what we should do if we're not currently 11th grade, what we need to do. And actually, I prepared for how to plan for your college. So if you look at this map, you can see this is like the 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, and 12th grade, what you need to do. And basically, I summarized everything and we put here. And if you can, do the self-check, and that can, guide you to prepare for your future. Okay, so this is something we want to, introduce everything about what we do and our counseling team. And this is something we want to remind everybody, okay? The common issues in most of the counseling program is counseling change a lot. It's like, a line opinion. It's like a line operation. It's like everybody do a little bit, but we don't want to do that because we want to control the quantity. That's why we take no more than 20 students every year, and we want to guarantee the best result. This is how we different. And the most important thing is we have a very strong resources. And if you apply different majors, you can get a different opinion from the expert and the professors, and that can also give you more value. Because I personally don't believe to one person job, because I think the counselor, if you do by yourself, everything by yourself, and we're not machine, right? And everybody has limited energy and time. So I think for 5 people working together for 20 students, that's enough attention. And we believe enough attention is always the best. You cannot be once a while meet and just several versions. I think, how to make it perfect, that's the most important thing. And that's the only thing that we care about. All right, finally, we want to put a Q&A section. So if you have any question, let me answer your question. All right, cool. First question. They say, if my SAT is 1,440, which is better for second score or not? Which is better for sending the score or not? All right, so I will answer this question. I would say depends on the school, depends on the major, but I would say 1,440 is okay to send. Is okay to send. Yes, you can send it. So one of questions say, well, it's still needed to take the 2 times related SAT2 to major, 2 plus related SAT2 to major. So do you need to take I think the question is like, do I need to take 2 more SAT2 tests? I don't know if I'm understanding the right way. Francis, can you answer this question?
Sure. I think basically it depends on the major you are applying to, right? So if you look at college admissions requirements, even though a lot of times SAT subject tests are not required, it's highly recommended, especially for competitive majors like engineering school. If you look at University of California's engineering school requirement, like almost all of them will require 2 SAT subject tests, if you really want to stand out. This year things can be a little bit different, but then if you really want to stand out, if you really want to get into a good school, I would say SAT2, 2 major related tests are still highly recommended.
Okay. All right. Next question say, would it be worth it to have my student taking a credit AP class and have that go on his UC record? It's a few $1,000s. This is a question from a teacher, I think. Okay, so do you think it's worth to get the, accredit AP classes and send it to the UC record?
Mm, for UC GPA, right? They look at 10th grade and 11th grade. So meaning like that's a total of 12 to 14 classes for a regular student. So I would say if the student can get an extra boost with the help of the AP class, that's definitely worthwhile. I don't have the exact calculation, but then my guess is that with the extra AP, score, the student can probably increase his or her GPA by 0.1, depends on, whatever his or her past GPA is. So to me, it's totally worthwhile.
Yeah, and I think I have to see what is your GPA. If your GPA need to be boosted, you'd better just to spend the money just to, improve your record. I think that's better. But if you have a high GPA, maybe you don't need to. Okay. So one more question: if a student chooses to not write essay about a COVID-19, well, she or he has the disadvantage in terms of the college admission. Thank you. All right. What do you think? Somebody don't want to write anymore.
Okay, so this, I think the student should still respond because at least we can tell like COVID-19 has impacted students' grading scale. Basically, it has disrupted all the public schools districts, teaching experience and then also the grading part. Even though the high school counselors are also required to report that from their perspective, I think as a student, you still want to talk about like how this has impacted you, like how much toll it has on you. So my recommendation is that you are highly, encouraged to do that when everybody is doing it.
Yeah, one of the thing is like I think you supposed to have the same experience like quarantine at home, couldn't go to school, couldn't do any activities. So you need something to explain, right? And everybody knows that's the impact. So you'd better write it. So if you don't want to write it, well, that's okay if you can write something else and also good enough to show who you are, which is also okay. So another question say, can you explain the UC capped GPA and which colleges use it? Francis?
It's very hard to explain very briefly, but then basically for the top two tier UC, right, with the first tier UC being UCLA and UC Berkeley, and then the second tier UC being UC San Diego, Santa Barbara, Davis, and Irvine, the UC cap GPA is gonna be totally different. Basically meaning like, how many APs they count for UC GPA is gonna be different. So if you still have any further question regarding this, you can talk to us, individually. It's very hard to explain right now.
Okay, all right. Another question. I will answer the first part. Is ACT 33 a score to be submitted? I think you can submit it because ACT canceled the joint test. So I think if you already had a score, just go ahead to submit it. Better have it than don't have it, right? A lot of people don't have it. So you have it, that's good. You can submit it. So another question say if the student get 89 in the extra AP course, is it possible to boost the GPA for the UCs?
This question is a little bit hard to understand from my perspective because like 89 for AP class, like every school it varies, right? It can be, A minus or B plus depending on the school. And then also for UC GPA, because like, they only count 10th grade and 11th grade, does the AP is the AP in, within that time frame or does it like fall outside of, those 2 years? It really depends.
Okay, all right. So we also have the another question saying, um, if the student have the cumulated unweighted GPA 3.78 and a weighted GPA 4.03, would the class be worthwhile? I think we're talking about the class for extra 1,000 to pay for the credit AP classes. The question the same come from the same person.
Mm-hmm. With 3.78 unweighted GPA and weighted GPA 4.03, I think the extra AP class is still worthwhile option just because of how much it's gonna improve. We can do the calculation later, but for sure it definitely seems so.
Okay. All right. So actually, there's like four more questions from the question box, but I can't see it. Ryan, could you please read it for us? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first question was, I couldn't register SAT because all test center are closed in Bay Area. How could I register SAT in August? Is ACT test online in June or July? Thanks.
All right, Francis.
We were receiving a lot of requests about SAT registration. We also have students based in Asia, China and Singapore, who are competing for the seats in Asia. So basically, we have seen students who are not able to register get a testing dates they want. So we would highly recommend you to go back to the College Board website on June the 3rd, when the website is gonna reopen for registration again. So on June the 3rd, everybody is okay, to register, not just the priority group. So try again on that date.
Okay. Yeah, one more question from me here. Say, if the taking community college summer class, will that boost the UC GPA? Definitely that can. If do I need to take a summer AP course? Well, depends on which grade you are. And usually the normal AP classes in the school is fine. If you can't get it in school, you can get it extra outside. That's okay as well. For the extra AP courses, are you saying that basically only A minus or A score could boost the GPA? If it's a B plus, may not be helpful. Francis, I think that's the same question for the previous.
Yes, actually B will help as well. So believe it or not, University of Miami, they have officially compared profiles of two students. One, has perfect GPA 4.0, no AP at all. And then the other student has a 3.6 GPA with quite a few APs, but then get a lot of Bs. I think at least 4 Bs or so. In that scenario, for the AP courses, colleges don't just care about what kind of score you get for the class eventually. They also want to look at how much, challenge you have taken on to get what you get today. So AP course, even if students get a B, a lot of times we will still encourage them to take it just to show like their will to challenge themselves academically.
Okay, and one more question from me. Should my students retake the SAT if they got a 1,530? No, you don't need to. That's it. That's enough. Yeah, Ryan, any question from your side?
Yeah, I just sent it to the WeChat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I currently have a 1,500 SAT. I believe I can get a 35 SAT score. Is it worth to spend the time studying to get the 35? I'm trying to get into tier 1 UCs with a 3.85 unweighted GPA and a 4.3 weighted GPA as the CS major. Oh. All right. So please, Francis, you're specialized in CS major.
Yes, this is a $1 million question because we have seen like so many Bay Area students trying to compete for CS major, right? I think 1,500 SAT is not a bad score at all, but but then the student also mentioned like he believed that he can get a 35 ACT score. I think if we look at the conversion between SAT and ACT is gonna be higher. So I would say we need to look at, return on investment at this point, right? How much time do you have left? And then what kind of profile do you have right now? Do you want your next step priority to be the test score? If you can get, ACT 35, let's say with just, half a month's preparation, yes, go for it. But then if you're gonna spend, the upcoming, 4 or 5 months to really like, crashing ACT, you're gonna spend all of your time on it. Probably it's just not worthwhile. We need to look at your profile holistically to decide what should be the priority right now. But then so far, we cannot decide because we don't know that.
Okay, thank you. And I got a couple more questions, and even we're running late, but I still want to answer. Thank you for asking, and we try to finish answer all the questions. And one of the questions say, for the COVID-19 prompt, can we talk about how we have impacted our community in a positive manner during this challenging time? Yes, of course you can. Can certain activities still be reported if there wasn't every year? For example, there were some breaks between the playing and certain sports due to the moving. Would a university still recognize it? Yes. Last one say, whoa, great presentation. Hello, this is Redmond Jin from the Princeton, New Jersey. I'm a rising senior. Is taking 2 SAT subject tests, literature and math too, good enough for Harvard College administration? Wow, what a strong candidate. Thank you. Thank you for your accomplishment. And I would say, yeah, I want to give you a wow as well because you're going shooting for Harvard, which is, great. So I would say taking 2 SAT subject tests, literature and math too. I would say, is it only 2, or you are saying like you want to take 2 this year? That's a very different question. Okay. So another question is like, so because Harvard is not only about a score. I think if you listen to different like seminar, different kind of, there's the common sense for the top school application is like you have to show who you are. So you have to be I would say, a unique person. The unique means like your personality, your leadership, your background. You have to be strong candidate. So if you are a strong candidate, it doesn't matter how many subject tests you have, but usually our candidates, they all have like a lot of APs, a lot of subjects, and for some reason. So right now, a lot of voice saying like, hey, the test is important, the score is not important. The look at those data, the students who get there, they are absolutely outstanding. So just to think about how to get yourself being outstanding, this is something I think you can figure out by yourself. Yeah. All right. So another question asked me. This question is kind of like interesting. It's like I have been listening to different kind of seminars, and every time I hear different opinions. What should I do? All right, Francis, what do you think? Hopefully, we get your opinion that you agree with. Okay.
Yes. I think basically different counselors have their own counseling philosophy, and then people believe in different things, right? Because like I've seen counselors who are discouraging students, to try the top schools because they think like their admissions chance is kind of low. But then for us, we would always encourage our students to always give their dream schools a try. I would say, different people believe in different things. The technical stuff, the technical skills, on the one hand, can be, different. But then on the other hand, like everybody's belief is different. Everybody's philosophy is different. You should really follow your heart in the process and then choose to believe to whoever you believe, shares your belief because that's what you believe, right? So I hope our presentation really resonate with your belief, and then we can have this trust building processes so that we can help you.
Okay. All right. So unfortunately, we have to end the meeting today, because of the time is kind of like running late. But we are so glad you guys have so many questions, and we'll welcome you guys to contact us. And good luck for this year. And we are going to get more great like a presentation for you guys. And welcome to contact us and tell us what you like to talk about in the next open class. Thank you so much today, and have a great weekend. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Ryan.
Everyone, thank you, Jin.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We appreciate you guys, and just make sure you take note of our newsletter sign up if that's what works for you, or WeChat. Make sure to scan the code on the screen and visit our website if you'd like to schedule a free consultation, because as you can tell, a lot of these questions that you've been asking us are very complex, and we'd like to give you the proper time to actually give you a in-depth answer. Thank you for joining us tonight.